Table 3. Let's see what the center directors got going on.
We had quite a rainy. We had a vacation and some organizational successes, making lists and checking things off.
Okay.
And some staffing wins, people showing up to work.
That's important.
And warm and fuzzy feelings coming out of teacher evaluations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. All right. So for those of you who didn't pick up on it, what we're modeling is things that you can do with coaching teams as a coach to build rapport and to build relationship. Everything you're learning, you can translate it right back when you're coaching your teams. To get data, because if they're struggling to say something went well at work in the last week, remember that's information gathering. Then that's when you say, well, something outside of work. But we want them to try to figure out what's working well at work so that work becomes a positive frame, and that positive is what we build on. Okay? And it doesn't take long. So if you're sitting with 3 teachers and you're the coach, you share also, that's 4 minutes, 5 minutes at max, as an introductory way to start each coaching meeting. And that differs from team to team. I have one team that when I meet with them, we all have to sit, we close our eyes, and we kind of do some deep breathing, and then we start. You know, I have another team that if there's no chocolate, they get angry. You know, it's called differentiation, meeting their need. I have another team that really likes to play games. So I have all these card strategy games, open-ended questions, and we actually play cards, but the questions are about the work. But they like, there's something about this that they like. I don't know if these women like to gamble when I'm like, I really don't know, but it works. So as the coach, I can't do the same thing the same way everywhere I go. Okay, my role is to shift and meet the developing needs of the teachers so that what's modeled for them, they can shift and meet the developing needs of who? Children and families. That's right, or sometimes that coworker or colleague. That's important too, all right? So we're modeling what we want teachers to give children in all of these strategies. So I'm gonna go back before we move forward to what Monica said earlier. So Monica said before the break, you know, I have teachers who have their own trauma. What should I address? And I said both and. So I just want to add a hint of clarity to that. So what I mean by both and is, if a teacher has a lot of stress and can't focus on, or if it's not getting in the way of the work, but if they can't focus on the therapeutic nature of, I've got to change my behavior. And they may not be ready for that in the context of the coaching conversation, and the coaching conversation is not watered down therapy. Nobody's asking you to be a therapist, so let's be mindful of that also, so that we don't cross boundaries or roles and responsibilities. However, what we know does work when we're dealing with those difficulties is it's called emotional distancing. That instead of you focusing on you in the context of the meeting, because I might need the teacher to change some behavior, but it's actually accessible and reachable and attainable. It's attainable to focus on the child. So what the teacher has the wherewithal to do is to say, well, Marcus and Mikhail need me to do A, B, and C, so I'm going to revise my teaching strategies to meet their need in that way. That's the both and, that they're able to do that. But it may be too soon for that same teacher to say, ooh, how I show up, I need work. So as the coach, your inroad is the children. That's what I mean by the both and. That it may be too soon for them to do that awakening that has to come at some point. And sometimes it might not be your role. It might be saying, we need somebody else to come help these people get through whatever they're going through. So that sometimes, as a coach, that leadership role that you all have, you're the conduit for that. So what we mean by emotional distancing, for those people who may be confused, if you think of children's books, 85% of children's books have animal characters, if you notice, specifically children's books with socio-emotional themes. Specifically if they're written by the American Psychological Association before 2000. There was a rabbit, a bunny, a cow, and they talked, and they took on human characters. That was because children who had experienced whatever it was needed the emotional distancing in the book so that they could say, oh, it happened to the bird, what happened to me? I can keep reading this story because the bird is going through this, but it was really the child. So that emotional distancing is what adults need also sometimes. So talking about the child instead of the adult. is helpful. So again, thank you for bringing it up, Monica, because I think it's powerful and necessary, and it happens oftentimes for us, and we mistake it for something else. Too often we're mistaking that behavior for resistance, or this teacher just doesn't like to do this, and she's mean, because underneath that is the stress and the trauma of her lived experience that she hasn't named yet, or he hasn't named yet. All right, so here's a quote from retired teacher at San Francisco Unified School District, Ms. Shirley Jackson, who's retired, but you know, it seems like everybody in California who retires is working in Southern. I got to get out of California because I refuse to be in retirement, but still got to come back to work. But she was a wise woman that I had an opportunity to share some space with. And she said once, it takes a strong mind to work with the young mind. And I thought that was so powerful. It takes a strong mind to work with the young mind. That's true. That's very, very true. And I think too often, if the mind isn't strong, we say coaching is to repair everything. And coaching isn't a repair everything role. It has a basis, but it's not everything. So our role as coaches is to help adults' capacities and capabilities, their minds become stronger with all the work. All right, I'm going to skip that one just for the moment. I'm going to skip this one for the moment. Did anybody read the homework? 2 kinds of professional development? So in this article, I highly recommend you read it. They really talked about coaching and professional learning communities. They call them PLCs. That together, those experiences lift what coaches and what teachers can provide. So the YMCA Early Childhood Impact, some of their coaches are in here and their program manager. What they're going to start with me in July is a PLC. I'm going to meet with them twice a month. They're creating a professional learning community as coaches, which is different than a meeting, but to say as coaches, here's something that we're grappling with. Here's a